Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you? Happy Wednesday. I'm glad that I can still remember what day it is. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, but happy Wednesday. It is April the 15th. Yay for me. Yay for me. It feels like it's been a minute since I've talked to you guys. But I guess it has been. I think it was Thursday, so it's been almost a week. Believe it or not, in the midst of our crisis, time is flying by. The days and the minutes, they go by relatively quickly as we are in quarantine and practicing physical distancing and not socializing. Time is still slipping. I am a little more, I don't want to say somber because I am doing well and I'm feeling well. But what I want to talk to you about today, I'm a little, I guess, maybe more serious. So I'm not bubbly like I am. And I'm recording on two cameras, by the way. So I'm on Facebook Live and I'm also recording this for YouTube. So I probably will look at the YouTube camera more than the Facebook camera. All right. But anyway, I guess this, I'm really serious. I guess this just really hits home and into my core and what I'm going to talk about today. So maybe that's why I'm a little more somber. But anyway, here we go. So we have heard the term the new normal. This is the new normal of how we're living. Working from home, which is not the worst thing in the world, social distancing, physical distancing, not socializing in groups. And I hope that's all they're talking about because all of our stores and venues and entertainment venues are all closed. So I hope they're not grouping that into the new normal, if you will. But I want to say that the new normal is a farce. This is not normal. What we're experiencing, what we're going through is no way, shape, or form normal. And nor do I believe that it will or should be our new normal. So this is it. What we're experiencing is crisis, a global pandemic. And what we are doing is surviving and trying to adapt to, readjust to, having to distance ourselves and do business differently, engage with people differently. I refuse to accept that this is the new normal because it's not normal. It's survival and it's crisis mode. And it's not fully sustainable for everyone. A lot of us are engaging in electronic and virtual meetings, but there are a lot of people that don't have access to computers and cell phones, nor are they necessarily interested. So, what does that mean for those people? This way of living is not sustainable for everyone. It's not sustainable for everyone because it's crisis. And some people have crashed and burned, and some people will have a delayed reaction and crash and burn on the other side, even when we come out of it. So this is not the new normal. And I just don't want us to accept it or believe that it is. Um, when we come out of this, we're going to be different. Some of it is going to be a strange kind of different, and then some of it's going to be a good different. I'm going to talk about the good different on the end, but we're already seeing how we're different. God, don't let anyone call for sneeze around you. It's like, insane. We ain't trying to have anybody call for sneeze around us, even though coughing and sneezing is normal, and particularly those of us that have allergies. I didn't use the word normal, forget that. It's part of the issue when you have allergies to cough and sneeze and etc. But this is what's going on, folks. We are in a crisis, a global crisis, and we are trying our best to survive in it, and we will thrive in it. But this is it. We are being traumatized. and we have been traumatized. So, what is trauma? Trauma is a deeply distressing, disturbing events, single or multiple, that happen to you, to us, to me, and that disrupts our homeostasis, our center, our average, our way of being, our grounding. It swipes us off our feet. Trauma is overwhelming, things that happen to us that overwhelm us, our minds, body, soul, spirit, psychic, physical, all of that. It overwhelms us, it disrupts us. And it's what we consider as a threat. Trauma is subjective to an individual. It doesn't mean the same thing to everyone, but there are common characteristics of it and common effects of it. And that's what we are experiencing, some to more degrees than others, but without a shadow of a doubt, we are being traumatized and we all are all experiencing it. Um, Many of us don't recognize it as such. And I only recognize this event as being traumatic for the world because I experienced trauma. About 2 years ago, I was living as I live, I was doing as I did, and all of a sudden, the environment around me, people and places, and the environment around me changed. And that environment became very toxic, very harmful to me. Everything was totally disrupted, day in and day out, consistent over and over and over again, very hostile, toxic environment. I was sustaining, I was gracious, I was professional, I was holding on to my faith and my spirituality. Externally, all of that was intact. But internally, there were some things going on that totally disrupted my sense of safety and my sense of well being. And I hadn't recognized that. I happened to be in the company of some people, and someone recognized that and brought that to my attention. She goes, "What you're experiencing is trauma." And I thought, wow, okay, I'm a registered nurse. I'm very well could be a therapist, a life coach, all of that. Just need to put the credentials behind it. I'm a woman of faith, grounded and strong in it. And I didn't recognize that. So as I started researching and talking to some other professionals, therapy, etc., this is what I learned, that we recognize trauma with a big T. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, murders, violence, car accidents, sickness, national catastrophes. We know that to be traumatic. But this is what I learned, that we're all walking around every single day having experienced trauma with a little t. So we know trauma with the big T, but don't recognize trauma with a small t. And that's why it's subjective. So I realized and learned that what I had experienced was trauma, traumatic, totally disrupted mind, body, soul. I mean, a year I spent recovering. But because I experienced that and it was brought to my attention and I'm learning about it, I know and recognize that we're all traumatized with this small t. But really, for real, this COVID-19 and this global pandemic, it's trauma in a big T. But I'm pointing to the point of not recognizing it as such. We're feeling things, we're experiencing things, fear, panic, anxiety, disrupted sleep, overeating, sleeping patterns, I should say, overeating, all kinds of stuff that we're doing, watching a lot of television, changes in our patterns because we have to shelter in place, but it has and it will have a continual impact on us. So that's my point of bringing that up. But that prepared me for this, and that's why I'm able to speak to it. This is another point I want to drive home. You don't come out of trauma the same way that you went in it. When you go through trauma, when you work through trauma, when you process through trauma, you come out differently on the other side. Some people say that I'm different. Things have changed about me. And I agree. I'm not the same person today in 2020 and in 2019 that I was in 2018 when I experienced the trauma. And I I can't explain it. I can tell you that it does something to you. What I am allowing it to do in me is push me to some other things, which is good. But it does something to you. So I saw something that said people say that I've changed. And I say, yeah, because a lot has changed me. And that's what we're going to experience as we come through this COVID-19 pandemic. We will not be returning to even a business as usual. I mean, if we're already looking at people side-eyed, sneeze and cough, and it's funny, we joke about it, but we also know that there's some parts of us that don't joke about it. We don't want people, right now they're telling us to maintain at least 6 feet between you and another person. Well, what is that going to look like when we re-entry back into society? Very similar to what someone that has been incarcerated has to do to readapt, to re-enter back into society. A debriefing and a process has to take place. We're more cautious. What does that mean? That we're not going to shake hands? Does that mean we're not going to hug? Does that mean that we're not going to kiss? I don't know what that means. I'm part of a dance community and we do partner dancing. That is close. You touch, you're close. What does that mean for us in the partner dancing community? What does it mean for football, contact sports? I'm not sure. What does that mean when they open up entertainment venues? I'm not sure, but I can tell you it's going to be different. But this is not normal. We're being traumatized, and when we come on the other side of this, it's going to be it's going to be different. And even if you think that you're going to just return to normal, if you will, I'm using that term interchangeably. But if you're going to return to what we did before and how we did it, or okay, for the sake of this, if you're going to return to your personal um, existence, that's not going to happen because you and I have been traumatized. And even if we think we can just go and pick up where things were before, your mind, your body, your soul, and your spirit is going to be a little resistant to it. It's going to be more aware, more alert, and more cautious. Why? Because you've experienced some trauma. I imagine that the therapist offices will be probably more jam packed when we come out of this because they were already jam packed prior to with people that thank God are working through and recognizing working through some things. And then we have this crisis on top of it. So now they have the crisis that they're working through. But when you come out of the crisis, and you have delayed responses and reactions, I imagine that they're going to be quite busy. But this is what I want to say. We're being traumatized, recognize it as such, but I want to say allow the trauma to do its work. Allow the crisis to do its work because good things can come out of trauma and crisis when we allow it to do its work. I'm going to go to my source. I'm going to go to my citations with that. I'm speaking from my own experiences, watching the lives of so many people that have experienced bad things, traumatic things in their life, and how they've turned it around for totally good, great, wonderful things and purpose. And I'm also going to tell you what my source says about it. So this is James. Now I'm going to start with, I do want to start with James. James 1 verses 2 through 4. And this is what it says. Count it Pure joy, my brothers and sisters. Whenever you face trials of many kinds, aren't we facing many different trials right now? Social distancing, loss of jobs, loved ones, and people that we know. Some of us ourselves have been physically and actually impacted with COVID-19. We've been positive. Some of us have, and we know people that have. We know people that have died. So there's trials of many kinds, all right? Because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work so that you will become mature and whole, and so that you will not lack anything. So, what James is saying here is that it's got to do what it's got to do so that we will be mature and whole. So, we should come out of this having grown and learned from it. Make room, let it work. Make room, let it work. Make room in us and let this crisis and trauma do its work. Allow it to do something in us. And a second resource and citation from the Bible that I want to read to you is 1 Peter 6 and 7. And it says, "So be truly glad. There is a wonderful joy ahead, even though right now it's rough down here and we're going through a rough patch. But these trials are only to test your faith to see whether or not it is strong and if it's pure. And it's being tested as fire tests gold and purifies it. And your faith is much more precious to God than gold. So if your faith remains strong after being tried in a test tube of fiery trials, it will bring forth much praise and glory and honor to God." Make room and let him work. Make room and let him work. This is a time to reset, to realign, and to reprioritize. It's a time for us to really take a look at ourselves, dig deep. We have time. It's not like we don't have time, but dig deep within yourself, myself, and assess some things that are there: the good, the bad, the ugly, the dreams, the vision, that stuff that's deep within us. Unpack it and take a look at it. Our hearts, take a look at our hearts. Our hearts is the core of who we are, our very essence, our being, our motives, and our values. And our minds, take a look at our minds. Our minds are our thoughts, our beliefs, but our minds and our hearts lead us to the actions and behaviors that we have. Courageously face them and allow this time to do a great work in us, to realign, to reassess. This global crisis has brought about a global and a seismic shift in the atmosphere. And God is allowing it to happen so that he gets our attention. And if he has your attention right now, then let him do the work in you. Let the crisis bring forth gold out of you. That's it. That's what I have. Again, it's a little more somber or softer, if you will. But again, I just want us to realize that this is not normal, what we're experiencing. It is traumatic, and there will be traumatic responses in all of us now and in the days to come when we come out of it. Some of it is delayed and you don't know it, but I'm bringing up a couple of things so that you can recognize it. I am one that has a delayed response to trauma. I know it's because how God designed me so that I can withstand in the midst of trauma and crisis, and I could perform and lead and do what I need to do or what's called to be done to get the job done, if you will. As a registered nurse working in critical care, if I was the type that panicked and could not function in high trauma and crisis and in those types of atmospheres, I would not have been a good critical care nurse, and I would have lost patients. That didn't happen. It happened only when God was taking that person home. But to my point is that I know that I am one that has delayed reaction because I'm built to respond to crisis and to be able to function and remain stable. But nonetheless, trauma impacts all of us. So I'm one of those that has a delayed response. And I'm being transparent so that you too would recognize it. And lastly, allow it to do its work. What trauma has done to me is for me and in me is because number one, I don't waste anything that I go through. I don't waste blood, sweat, or tears. And I allow the hard things to happen. And each time take a look at self. And I allow God to work in me and through me each time that I experience some unpleasant things. I look for the lessons and I readjust, realign, and readapt. And we have an opportunity to do that. So that's what I got for you today. I do want to leave a couple of inspirational things that I saw on Facebook that I actually printed out for myself to post. And that is pay attention to whatever inspires you, for it is spirit trying to communicate with you. That is why it's called inspiration, as in spirit. Listen to it, believe in it, and act on it. That's all that I'm doing when I started jumping out here and sharing what I've been pondering on. I'm listening to the spirit that's in me, and I believe that it's valuable, even if it's for one person that could take something from it and take it and run, and his or her life becomes more empowered by something that they've heard me say. And lastly, I'm getting this off of Facebook. This is what one of my Facebook friends posted. It's not mine. But if you don't come out of this quarantine with a stronger prayer life, a new skill, a side hustle, or having completed something, you never lack time, you lack discipline. And I'm saying that to myself. I can't come out of this having not done something with the time and the opportunity that has been placed in our laps to reposition, to realign, to rebalance. I am a chick with a message, and it is my purpose and my passion to enlighten, to encourage, and to empower. I speak out loud in the light to and about those things that you cry about in the dark. And I hope that you find something to take away. Be blessed. Be in peace. Deuces.